Today we're gonna break down GTA 5's non-canon A and B endings and explain why they make no sense. Starting with ending A, in which of course Franklin kills Trevor, and this one makes a bit more sense than Michael's for the sheer reason that if Franklin was to kill any of the two, it would probably make for him as a character a lot more sense to kill Trevor. However, if Franklin was to kill Trevor, that would to me at least be completely out of character for him, at least for the most part. When we look at Franklin's friendship with Lamar, things are completely different in that end. Despite everything that Lamar put him through, Franklin still saved him more than once and didn't just give up on the guy, let alone think of killing him at any point. And also, when you look at Trevor and Franklin, I mean, sure, Franklin was closer with Michael and whatnot, but Trevor really didn't do anything wrong to Franklin and was never really responsible for getting him into any kind of shit shows like Lamar was. Sure, you could argue that they knew each other for a shorter amount of time, but you can't tell me that in that short amount of time they didn't become at least good friends. And unlike Michael, Trevor never really wanted to kill Franklin. There wasn't a single point where Trevor would want to go after Franklin, unlike a short point when he truly wanted to kill Michael in the game. So it generally comes down to it being out of character for Franklin to kill his friend, not to mention for who he would kill Trevor. I mean, do you honestly think that Franklin would kill a new friend he made recently for that scumbag Stevie? Yeah, right, dude. Franklin, while being the more calm and collected in the crew, he's not a treacherous scumbag. That's why we see him in the Contract DLC, even now that he's rich as fuck with a family and whatnot. It's implied that he's still in touch with Michael, Lester, and even Trevor. Main trio aside though for a minute, this ending makes no sense also in the way of how it handles the antagonists of the story. So when looking at Steve specifically, because let's be honest, he's the one pulling the strings here, not Davey. Yeah, sure, he got rid of Trevor and whatnot, but like Michael and Franklin are still around and they're still at the end of the day potential loose ends for him. All this to say, what exactly is there to stop Steve from getting rid of them, especially Michael, since don't forget Devin Weston's still alive. So not only could Devin Weston start messing with Michael's business again at any point he wanted, or he could do something worse like go after his family or maybe try to kill him directly, because let me remind you that Devin sees Steve and Dave as, and I quote, clowns. So I doubt that in this situation Steve would have any kind of leverage or any say in this whole thing at all. Although it is pretty likely that considering the wrap-up mission, Steve would get rid of both Michael and Franklin as to simply tie up those loose ends. So that's basically it for ending A. But before we continue with ending B, I want to ask you to really quickly subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a like on the video if you're enjoying it right now, and also feel free to check out my channel memberships if you want to help support the channel in another way. Okay, one last thing I want to ask you guys is to go either down to the description or the pinned comment below this video and check out my NordVPN affiliate link, because to be honest, that's gonna keep my fridge full for a little bit. Thanks. Moving on to ending B. So in this ending, when it comes to Michael, the whole out of character thing for Franklin is amped up by like 500%. Because yeah, with Trevor, one could potentially argue that he was a time bomb who could go off and kill anyone at any time or kill them all. But with Michael, any chance of Franklin doing this, in my opinion, is out of the fucking window. Because here the same thing applies with Lamar that I talked about. Not to mention the entire thing with Michael. Not only was Michael a good friend to Franklin, and not only did Franklin save him from the Chinese gangsters and whatnot, but also really another important matter is that Michael helped Franklin make fucking millions. By the end of the game, they're all filthy rich, because at the end of the UD heist, of course, they robbed the UD successfully and whatnot. They have over 20 million each or something like that, some crazy number. But even after the jewel store heist, if we take things back to the beginning of the game, Franklin gets like $200,000, which is a lot of fucking money. And like he himself says, he made more money with one score with Michael than he ever did gangbanging or selling drugs or doing whatever he did before he met Michael. That's why, to me, when looking at ending B, where Franklin says to Michael, we both used each other, that line is so stupid. It's unbelievably stupid and makes no sense. Because yeah, it's true, they both benefited a lot from that partnership, and that's what friends are really for in the end. You know, they help each other. So I don't think it's a matter of them using each other. That's a stupid way to put it, in my opinion. So with us establishing that it makes no sense from Franklin's perspective, let's look at who he would kill Michael for. Devin Weston. Yeah, fucking right. Devin Weston scammed Franklin for the cars, and now you expect that Franklin would do that for him? Also, there's a hint in this very cutscene that could be taken as a small bit of kind of confirmation that he wouldn't do it. It's when Franklin literally tells Devin Weston to go fuck himself and slams the door in his face. Moving on to the antagonists alive in this scenario, or the ones that matter at least. So as for Devin, he got what he wanted, and since he's not a Fed, he probably would leave Trevor and Franklin alone. But what about Steve? So Steve in ending A has of course incentive to get rid of Trevor. Well, in ending B, he probably wants to get rid of Franklin and Trevor. Franklin because he's a loose end and because he didn't listen to him, and we know that Steve can be a little angry salt bucket at times, especially when people are not listening to his orders and whatnot, and Trevor because, well, he simply wants him dead. And yeah, sure, you could argue that maybe Devin would pull some strings and protect Franklin from Steve, but realistically, is he to be trusted? I say no, because it's simply a matter of if he screwed him over once, he'll screw him over again. And he'd probably just hand over Franklin to Steve, and then Franklin would be in prison, probably for the rest of his life and whatnot, because Steve would pin all the shit on him, and Trevor would probably be killed soon after this or before. My point is, just like with ending A, what's to stop Steve from going after Franklin and Trevor once Michael is dead? And since we established that Devin wouldn't really give two shits most likely, yeah, Steve can do whatever the fuck he wants with them, and they're not safe by any means at all. So in the end, these two endings make no sense, and for many reasons. Firstly, it's out of character for Franklin to betray his friends like that, especially Michael. Secondly, there's no way he'd betray them for those assholes, for Steve and let alone Devin Weston. And thirdly, even if he did, even if he was that much of a scumbag, which we can figure out he isn't, it doesn't really solve anything, as there's absolutely nothing and no one's stopping the antagonists from going after the remaining two protagonists after one of them is gone. And with that said, I want to thank you for watching this little bit of a GTA 5 lore video. Until next video stream, bye bye.